Welcome to Week 10 in review from the Commissioner's other couch. This is take two. My first one ran about 16 minutes, the longest one ever, and it got rejected from YouTube. So we're trying to get this one in less than 15. So we got a lot to cover. Let's get right to it with the game of the week. There were a couple of nominees, but when it came right down to it, there really could only be one game of the week this week, and that was Loose Cannons versus Pilot Lights. Cannons headed into Monday Night Football down 39-90, 51 points behind the Pilot Lights. What happened next is the stuff that legends are made of. In one of the most prolific fantasy football displays of the decade, and after some of the things I've been reading, possibly of all time, Mike Vick rolled into FedEx Field and proceeded to throw for 333 yards with 4 passing touchdowns, including one of 88 yards and one of 48 yards. A great day for any quarterback. But Vick wasn't done there. Oh no. He added another 80 rushing yards and 2 more rushing touchdowns. Total stat line for Michael Vick in this one, 413 yards from the line of scrimmage and 6 touchdowns for 59 points in our league. Enough to complete the comeback of Loose Cannons in and of itself. But that 88-yard touchdown I just told you went to Deshaun Jackson, who finished with 98 yards and that touchdown for another 15 points. When the dust settled, Loose Cannons won that game 113-90. That combined 74 points from Vick and Jackson was enough to beat 2 other teams in the Peanut Butter Jelly Time League in and of itself. Nearly beat within 4 points of 3 other teams. Of course, if Loose Cannons only scored 39 on Sunday, that means none of his other players actually reached double digits. Pilot Lights did have 3 in double digits, led by Orton's 35 on 296 with 4 touchdowns. An awesome day in anyone's fantasy box score, but when compared to Vick or even Brady, who Pilot Lights had on the bench with 40 points, that 35 becomes almost pedestrian. Of course, I wish I had 35 for my low quarterback score. Pilot Lights' rushing attack continued to look good, with Hillis at 14 and Bradshaw at 13. Other than the game where Vick went out with the injury, he has yet to score less than 25 points in a game and is actually averaging 35 points per game in those 5 games that he's played. Game of the week, part 2. Cats with Guns versus Chili Dogs. The Dogs were looking to rough up the competition, and the Cats had a perfect opportunity to close the gap between them and the Pilot Lights. And even after getting 0 from both Hines Ward and Aaron Hernandez on Sunday night, the Dogs were still up 78-66, with the Cats just having the kicker to play. It's good news, bad news for the Cats. With all of those touchdowns being scored by Philadelphia, Akers was reduced to an extra point kicking machine. He did get 8 of those. He also had a 48-yard field goal, just 2 yards short of getting some crucial bonus points, because Akers finishes with 11, needed 12 for the tie, which would have given the Cats the win, since they outscored the Dogs in bench points. More on that in a second. So final in that one, Dogs 78, Cats 77. Dogs had 3 in double digits, led by Schaub's 27 on 314 and 2 touchdowns. Steven Jackson had 20, Des Bryant had 18. Cats had 4 in double digits. We talked about Akers. There was also a no-Sean Moreno sighting in this one. He had 23 points on 106 rushing yards, plus 50 receiving yards and a touchdown. Calvin Johnson had 20, and Austin had 12. I talked about bench scoring for the Cats. If the Cats had started their bench, they would have won this game 93-78. That number is a little skewed, since he does have 14 quarterbacks and 6 defenses on his roster, but I think you get the idea. High score of the week. That one belongs to Master Killer. He beat Super Simon 121-81. This is the first time this year the Stewie division has had a scoring leader of the week. If you were wondering, the Stewie division did have 3 weekly leaders in 2009, 4 in 2008, but you'd have to go all the way back to 2006 to find the other time that Master Killer led the league in scoring for a week. That was week 12 when Master Killer topped the Chili Dogs 127 to 83 on that day. This past Sunday, Master Killer had 4 in double digits. All of them over 20 points. Fred Jackson had 28 on 133 rushing plus 37 receiving and a touchdown. 2 touchdowns. Eli had 25, Andre Johnson 22, and Brandon Lloyd 21. 3 in double digits for Simon, led by Dwayne Bowes 36 on 186 yards and 2 touchdowns. Eagles D had 14, and Bolden had 11. A little UMMC story for you. So last Thursday, Matt Davis says, who should I start? I got Bolden and I got Lloyd. I said, well, Lloyd's got the better matchup. I'd probably go Lloyd. I see him the next day, Friday, after the Ravens Thursday night game. He says, I started Bolden. I got 11 points. I scored a touchdown, 50 yards, blah, 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 blah. I said, all right, man. I guess we'll have to wait till Sunday and see what happens. I guess we saw what happened. Pete was right. Matt was wrong. Not like that never happens. 2 more teams finished this week over 100. As a matter of fact, both of these games finished with almost identical final scores. First up, Sheboygan Headbangers beat Pitons 117 to 58. 4 in double digits for the Headbangers, led by Matt Ryan's 32 in that Thursday night game. He had 316 yards and 3 touchdowns, including the offensive pass interference non-call against Roddy White that gave him his touchdown to win the game. Speaking of Roddy also on the Headbanger team, he ended up with 27, including that touchdown and another. MJD, 26. Kellen Winslow, a name we haven't called too often this year, he had 12. 3 in double digits for the Pitons. Bradford, 17. Macklin, 14, cashing in on that big Philly game. And Foster had 11. Blowout of the week. All right. It was only by 2 more points than the last game, but it's still a larger point differential, so we'll call it the blowout of the week. Rockers, 117. Manbunga Knights, 56. Rockers took the rook out to the woodshed in this one with some big late performances. Mike Wallace led the way for the Rockers with 27 on 136 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. Gore had 20, Charles and Anderson 18 each, and Carpenter 11. At one point late in Derek Anderson's game, he only had 3 points on the board, and then poured it on in a comeback effort to end at 18. Of course, the story here is who the Rockers dropped in order to get Anderson on the roster. We waived Castle. Castle responded to the dropping from the Rockers roster by throwing for 469 yards and 4 touchdowns, totaling 46 points. Switch those guys back, Rockers would end up with 145, not the 160 that Loose Cannons had last week, but good enough for second highest score of the year. In a related story, Matt Castle seen trying on Loose Cannon jerseys over there in Loose Cannon land. Manbunga did have 2 in double digits, getting back to the game. Sean Hill with 18, Vinatieri with 11. Last, the Monkeys win the Radiation Bowl as they expose T-Dub for what they are. Final here, 85-75. Monkeys 3-1 in their last 4, had 5 in double digits, including 25 from Flacco, 18 from that scrappy Olendo Mare, another 5 field goal performance in this one, 11 each from Fitzgerald and Jets D, and 10 from Mason. T-Dub had 3 in double digits with 30 from Garrard on 342 yards passing, including 2 long touchdowns. That was one of those being the Hail Mary at the end of the game to win the game for the Jaguars. Make you think twice about doing what you're supposed to do. Knock it down, and just knocked it right down right into the Jaguars' hands. 19 from Chris Johnson, 10 from LT. A little note about LT. LT seems to be slowing down after that hot start. After his bye, the last 3 games, he has scored 8, 9, and 10 points respectively. Down from the 17.75 points he was averaging in the 4 weeks leading into the Jets' bye. Quick look at the Pick'em. Manbunga continues his week-in, week-out domination of the Pick'em pool. He even got some help from Mike Vick this week as he picked Loose Cannons and sure enough was down and out and ends up with a W. He got 4 right this week and leads with 39 points. Rockers and Cats next with 31 and the Lights with 30. 4 games left. This pool does end at the end of the regular season. So, speaking of just 4 games left, there are 9 teams, either divisional leaders or within 1 game of that divisional lead. And the 3 other teams, although they do need a lot of help, still are not eliminated yet. So all 12 teams still in play with just 4 games left to play. This is the last week of interdivisional play, and then we really heat up the playoff chase in week 12 with the start of the 3 divisional games to end the year and decide those playoff brackets. Just for comparison's sake, at the end of 2009, and I had no way to break this up per week, but at the end of the year, you had the 3 divisional champs and only 2 other teams within 1 game of those divisional champs. Both of those teams were tied 1 game back in the quagmire. So I'm assuming that after 10 games, it wasn't even probably that close. 2008 was the same way. 2007, only 1 team within 1 game of the divisional leaders. And in 2006, 2 teams again, both from the quagmire division. So clearly, the most exciting finish in the Peanut Butter Jelly Time history is just ahead of us. This coming week, again, we've had some spectacular games over the last few weeks, and hopefully that will continue this week. But one game that really stands out this week is Master Killer versus Pilot Lights. Master Killer 6-4, tied for first in Stewie with Sheboygan Headbangers, takes on the 6-4 Pilot Lights. 1 game up in the Bryant division over Cats with Guns, trying to bounce back from the Michael Vick experience of last week. It is also time for the Commish Bowl. The Commissioners Rockers versus the Vice Commissioners Chili Dogs. Rockers, winners of 3 straight. Dogs, 4-2 in their last 6. That should be another good game. Again, we started Thursday night games last week, so we do have a Thursday night game. It's kickoff in less than 24 hours, probably about 23 hours from now. It is Chicago at Miami, so get your Bears and your Dolphins in the lineup. And your trade deadline is coming up. Trade deadline is going to be kickoff of the Thanksgiving Day games. So you still got about a week to get those last-minute trade offers in there. For all of you quarterback hoarders, the Rockers are in the market for a quarterback. So send me an email. That's all I got. Wraps up Week 10. Like I said, 23 hours away from the start of Week 11. And man, it's been a spectacular year. See you guys in a little bit.